Hey, it's Memphis here. Alright, so it finally happened. What we all knew was possible and even saw for ourselves, almost as a tease, on Fortnite's very own loading screen. Sloped traps. So what's so good about sloped traps? Well, first, let's get the technical bit out of the way. Not all floor traps work. The only floor traps I found that work were the freeze trap, the flame grill trap, the wood floor spikes, and the retractable spikes. So as awesome the idea may be of launching husks off your pyramid, it's not happening.
Yeah, not possible.
Yet anyway, there's no word if Epic plans on adding sloped functionality to any of the other traps. So, how good is this functionality? Well, it opens up a few possibilities, as well as gives your Atlas or data pyramid a bit more. I struggle to find any practical use for ramps on any other type of base. But I've seen some crazy bases out there, so there's no telling what you guys are going to come up with. The first traps I tried were the wooden floor spikes, simply because I had them perked up already, don't ask, and wanted to see them synergize with power-based Nox's damage-reflecting walls. I figured these traps might be good candidates as traps to spam on your pyramid since they're so cheap to make. The damage output wasn't bad, but as you may or may not already know, the slowing effect of the wooden floor spikes only slows down their movement, not their attack, so the husks will still hammer away at the same rate. Maybe that was a bit wishful thinking on my part. I considered placing some freeze traps and flame traps next, but flame traps are just bad. They're basically weak, elemental retractable spikes with a ridiculously long cooldown. Your incoming storm contained water husks? Whoops! Freeze traps, on the other hand, may give the DPS in your party something to do, as the husks get frozen in place on your pyramid. But my thinking has always been, why bother freezing or stunning the enemy when you could just be doing damage to them instead? It's like delaying the inevitable. Freeze traps are really only needed if you want to do extra damage to smashers by holding them in place in a trap tunnel to let the traps eke out a bit more damage, or for you to lay into them with your assault rifles. Although, the more I think about this, since I didn't actually run any tests on exceedingly difficult missions, freeze traps might really be fantastic for freezing those nasty power level 119 elemental smashers in place while you frantically try to put them down. Since your base should be mostly trapped with tunnels, smashers are really the only thing that's going to be making it through. The last trap that seemed to make sense on most pyramids, or for most situations, are the retractable spikes. These aren't terribly expensive to make, but they are very powerful and reload surprisingly quick. They made handy work of most husks, and even husky husks that made their way to my spiky little pyramid of doom. The tricky part was to make sure the husks attacked the slope part of the pyramid, not the corners. I thought a few ways to accomplish this. First was to utilize the multiple layers on one tile thing, with floor piece, a wall, and the slope. This definitely seemed to work, but it added a lot to the build time. And since lately I've been spending so much time farming PERK, I'm looking for efficiency, both in time and materials used. So then I thought maybe I could trick the husks by getting them to attack the weaker slopes, by upgrading the corners to a higher tier. This also seemed to work, sometimes. But this method has the inherent flaw of having the weakest section of your pyramid also being the part that's attacked. That just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. Not to mention, others in your party will most likely upgrade everything to the same tier anyway, without knowing what you're doing. Did I just claim that other people in your party are going to upgrade walls? At any rate, I needed to find another way. A small workaround, maybe to have the corners a different material type than the slopes. The slopes being the lower overall HP material, but again, I wasn't keen on this approach. So finally, I settled on a pretty simple and easy way to path the husks onto your slopes. And that's with the 1/3 high walls on the corners. This works well, but smashers don't always approve, and tend to want to smash these little walls down ad infinitum. This isn't a huge problem, as these little walls can quickly be rebuilt, and don't have to be upgraded. So currently this is my favorite method. I do like the cleaner look of adding the floor tile though. All that being said, husks still do tend to do as husks do, and husks don't. They often deviate seemingly randomly from what you expect them to do. Sometimes no matter what I did, the husk would pound away at some random corner, despite there being multiple tiers or walls in front of them versus a nearly destroyed or even vacant single tile wall right next to them. I don't know, man.
Oh, man. Am I right?
So now that we've covered the pyramid, what other uses can we find for our nifty new slope traps? The most interesting use I found was creating my own pathing up hills for the husks to follow, instead of following the ramps built into the environment. This allows you to inject an extra tile or two worth of floor traps into the funneling of your husks. Normally, husks travel harmlessly up ground slopes, but now they can either be slowed, burned, frozen, or skewered as they make their way up to your base. It's pretty cool. This seemed to work rather well, but it's not without its own caveat. These man-made ramps can be destroyed, either by propane or husks just being husks, ultimately leading them to instead path to a nearby natural ramp, unbeknownst to you. It's still worth the shot, however. It's a lot of extra damage, and it's fun coming up with creative ways to torture our poor undead friends. So that's that. We have slope traps. Cool, right? Yeah, not bad. Not sure I was expecting something more exciting to come from this, but this will have to do for now. I'm pretty sure we all want sloped launchers. The image in my head alone puts a smile on my face, but I mean, we already kind of have a way of doing this, although somehow it's just not the same. Until then, fingers crossed. So, please let me know of any creative uses you guys have come up with, either in the comments below or by swinging by my Twitch channel at Memphis with a little underscore thing at the end of it. This has been Memphis. Happy trapping, and thanks for watching.